This is the chart that started my career in precious metals. I wouldn't have written my book without this chart. I would never have made any public appearances without this chart. This chart, for me, has a real story behind it. I saw Robert Kiyosaki live in Hollywood in, I think, 2001 or 2000. It was probably 2002. And then in 2003, I was invited to go to a seminar of his in Scottsdale, Arizona. And there was probably 500 people at this, meeting at this hotel in a ballroom. And there's big round tables and a stage set up at one end. And there's about 10 people sitting at each table. And I brought a bunch of charts with me, probably a dozen different charts, the Dow Gold ratio and a few other things. One of the charts that I brought was this chart. And of course, back then, this chart, the data only went up to the year 2000. You've got it going up until today. But I brought along this chart. I always consider it, you see people, when somebody's famous, you see people sort of cluster around them and bother them and stuff. And I've always considered that very rude. So I just never do that. Mm-hmm. But I had these charts and I just had this burning desire. And on this second day, at the end of the lunch break, Robert Kiyosaki is coming back in the room and he passes me and I say, Robert, I've got these charts here and here's the Dow Gold ratio and here's this and here's that. And here's 12 different currencies, their purchasing power valued against gold and how they've just fallen off of a cliff since the year 1900. I said, do you want me to get copies of these? In the next break, I could go out to a copy center and have copies made for everybody here. And he just takes them from me and he goes, no, we'll handle it. And he hands them to somebody. He keeps on walking. Then he goes up on stage. The reason I had brought this chart up is he had been talking about gold in the previous session. But he goes back on stage and he's talking, and his style, after this seminar that I went to, later on I signed up for a series of three-day seminars on how to present on stage. But his style, which I learned, is to do 5, 10, 15 minutes, no more than 20 minutes of information. And then he says to the audience, okay, turn to each other and discuss that for a moment. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And everybody, the noise level starts going up and up and up in the room. And after about 2 minutes, there's a crescendo and it starts going down. And that people have gotten off topic. And then he goes, okay, stop. And then he continues on with the next portion of whatever he's going to talk about. But when I came back from the next break, there's this stack of charts, 6 inches thick, these groups of 12 charts stapled together. And there's 10 of these in the center of the table. And he's talking and he says, okay, turn to each other and discuss that for a moment. And then he gets off the stage, comes through the audience, and I'm sitting toward the back, and he comes right up to me, and he says, okay, after the next break, I'm going to have you come up on stage and explain all of those charts. And that's the first time he put me on stage, and the audience reaction was quite amazing. And then the next time he put me on stage in front of like 500, and then the next time was 5,000, and the next time there were 30,000 people at the Los Angeles convention. Whoa. And so this chart started my career. And so I thank you for including this chart in here. If you got any comments on this chart, it shows when Nixon ended the Bretton. The one that I gave him didn't have the nice, pretty picture of Nixon on it. But do you have any comments on this chart?
Well, regarding the Nixon speech, this is something that we are showing the audience of our gold seminar all the time. And it is so important to watch every now and then because it's just a perfect propaganda, just a big lie. And we all know what happened after 15th of August in 1971. And you can see that on this chart. And, for us, it's just very, very important to read history and to learn from history. And of course, the conclusion of this chart is that fiat money always reverts back to its intrinsic value, which is zero, as Voltaire
Well, actually, it's a
said
little
back
higher. It's the amount of BTUs you can get out of it from burning. One of the things that's interesting that I want to point out to people is if they look at this chart, there's the red line. The first one that falls to zero is the German mark. And after World War I, Germany went into a hyperinflation in the early 20s, before World War II, and the mark fell to zero. There's another German mark, the Papier mark, the paper mark, that isn't even on this chart, that also goes to zero. And then there's the Reichsmark, which is the gray line in here, that falls to zero at the end of World War II. And then there's the Deutsche Mark, which is down near zero. The Deutsche Mark, I believe, flows into the euro on here, and it's down near zero already. So for Germany, there's 4 times since the year 1900 that their currency has gone to zero.
Exactly. And I think it's no coincidence that actually Germans, but also Austrians, are the largest buyers of physical gold in Europe. I think, over here, it was just normal from the generation of our grandparents to get a small gold coin or a silver coin for every, birthday, for Christmas. It was just very, very normal. It was something that everybody did. And of course, if you talk about money, if you talk about gold with this generation of our grandparents, of course, they appreciate gold very different than the younger generation nowadays, and they know how important gold is as a monetary insurance. And therefore, I think it's important to learn about those episodes. The World of Yesterday by Stefan Zweig perfectly describes the hyperinflation that we had in Germany and previously in Austria, and what it did to our society, and not only to the finance and the economy, but also to the society. And this is something that's really important for us.
Yeah, during these periods, all of the people that are honest and do business normally, they become the losers. And the big winners during hyperinflation are the hucksters, the people that are sort of quick on their feet and know how to pull one off on everybody. They end up owning railroads and stuff. I mean, it was just amazing what happened during the German hyperinflation. When I was a kid, you mentioned the respect that people had for gold and silver, the older generation. When I was a kid, one of the most common birthday presents for children was a silver dollar. And these big old American silver dollars, they were just wonderful. I still love those things. They just feel so good. And there's the myth of the tooth fairy. Do you know about the tooth fairy?
Yes,
No.
of course. Yes.
You do?
No,
Okay.
of course. Yeah, sure.
You're a little kid and your baby tooth falls out, and your parents tell, well, put it under the pillow and the tooth fairy will come and they'll take the tooth and leave a silver dollar. That's what everybody that lost a tooth when they were a kid, they got a silver dollar for it. When I was a kid. So I want to thank you so much. This is a great series. We're going to wrap this one up on this chart that started my career. And so I want to tell everybody to look down in the video description and click the link to Ronnie's website. Go to Incrementum. You can download this report. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and click that little notification bell so that you get a notification of the next video in this series when it comes out. Ronnie, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure.
Okay. I thank everybody else for listening and for watching this video. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time. GoldSilver.com. Price match guarantee. Free shipping. Global storage options. Phenomenal customer service. Get the best-selling book, Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver, for free at GoldSilver.com.